In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve quadratics by finding the square root. Now, this method can only be used if you're in the format of ax squared equals c, meaning there's no middle term, there's no bx. If you notice in number 1, you have the ax squared term right here, and then you have the c term. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it into this format where c is on the other side, and c is your constant. Let's move that 81 to the other side. And then from here, we'll make sure that it's 1x squared before we take the square root. Now we take the square root of both sides, and we'll have x equals positive negative 9. There are two answers. X equals 9 because 9 times 9 is 81, and x equals negative 9 because a negative times a negative is also positive 81. So there are actually two solutions. You can express them like this or with the plus minus in front. For the next problem, once we move the 180 to the other side by adding 180, here we go, you will have 5x squared equals 180. Now, you can't jump in and take the square root. The first thing you want to do is isolate the x squared. So we want to have 1x squared, so we divide by 5 on both sides. And we'll have x squared equals 36. All right, and now that we're in the format of 1x squared equals 36, let's take the square root, and x equals not 6, it's plus minus 6. We have to remember that there are two solutions. So if you forget about the minus, then that means you're missing half your answer. On number 13, same idea, so I'll just get you started. We'll add the 100 to the other side, and we'll have 3x squared equals 432. And remember, I'm not going to take the square root unless it says 1x squared. We're going to isolate that x squared before we take the square root. So we divide both sides by 3. Take your calculator, divide 432 by 3. And now's the time that we take the square root of both sides, and we get x equals not just 12, but plus minus 12. Two solutions, a positive 12 and a negative 12. As you continue on and do some more challenging problems, use the same method. Your goal is to get it into the format of ax squared equals c, where x squared is isolated. Let's take a look at this one. It involves a fraction. We'll add 8 to the other side, and we'll get 24. And we have to know what to do with this fraction. In order to isolate x squared, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal on both sides. This will cancel out and just be 1x squared. And on the right-hand side, we will have 36. And then from there, you know what to do. I'm going to skip 12. I think we did that already. Let's look at 19 and 22. Again, I'm showing you these problems just to give you an idea on how to get started. This one looks a little different from 22. They both involve a 2, but this one's in front of the parentheses in number 19. So let's work with that. I have 2, and it says x plus 3 squared equals 8. Now, one approach is to isolate the x squared, but it's not x squared, it's this binomial squared. So let's isolate the binomial. Divide both sides by 2 to isolate that binomial, and you'll have x plus 3 squared equals 4. And some of you might look at this and say, oh, I'll square this, I'll multiply this binomial and do some work, but I'll show you a shortcut. It's technically still in the format of x squared equals a number. Think about it. It's still technically in that format. So what I'm going to do is something's being squared. I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I'll end up with x plus 3 The square or the square root undoes the square there. Plus minus 4. And then from there, I want to isolate x. And I'll have x equals -3 plus minus 4. So this problem is a little bit different in terms of how to solve. So we will do more problems like this in class. So if you do see any problems like this on your homework or number 22, attempt them and see how you do, and then we'll work with it. We'll work with each other on Thursday. For number 22, there's no coefficient in front. It's just the binomial being squared, so I'll just immediately jump into square rooting it so I can get rid of that square. I'll have 2x minus 3 equals plus minus 5. And then I'll start to isolate, and I'll have 2x equals, let's add the 3 to both sides, 3 plus minus 5. I'm just simply moving it in front of that term, dividing by 2, and x equals 3 plus minus 5 over 2. Now, both this answer and this answer can be simplified further, but again, I'm not showing you the final answers. These are not the final answers because they can be simplified further. My goal with these two examples is just to show you how it works, and from here, you can just separate them out. For example, this will be -3 plus 4. That will give you 1, and -3 minus 4, which will be -7. All right, if you have any more questions, bring them to class on Thursday, or feel free to email me.